The lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy as Professor Kethver activated the plasma containment field. 200 alien students from across the galaxy watched as the towering Zilithium professor prepared for his demonstration of advanced energy weaponry. The course, Theoretical Applications of Plasma-Based Combat Systems, was considered one of the most dangerous electives at the Galactic Military Academy. Sarah Shun sat in the middle row, her human frame dwarfed by the massive Croton warriors on either side of her. She was the only human in the class, perhaps the only human foolish enough to enroll in such an advanced course during her first semester at the Academy. The other species had millennia of experience with plasma technology, while humans had barely mastered spaceflight 50 years ago. Today we examine the plasma whip, Professor Kethver announced, his forearms moving gracefully as he activated the weapon. A brilliant blue-white energy stream materialized in his primary manipulator, crackling with contained lightning. The plasma whip hummed with deadly power, its energy signature making the air itself shimmer with heat distortion. The Zilithian professor was renowned throughout the galaxy for his expertise in exotic weapons. His species had perfected plasma technology when humans were still discovering fire. Standing nearly 3 meters tall with crystalline skin that reflected the weapon's glow, he commanded respect from every student in the hall. The plasma whip represents the pinnacle of personal energy weapons, Kethver continued, letting the weapon dance through the air. It requires precise neural control, perfect timing, and an understanding of plasma dynamics that few species can master. The weapon bonds with its wielder's bioelectric field, becoming an extension of their nervous system. Sarah leaned forward, fascinated. The weapon moved like a living thing, responding to the professor's thoughts as much as his physical movements. The plasma stream could extend up to 5 meters, capable of cutting through starship hull plating or delivering non-lethal stunning charges. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The Thrakari developed this weapon for their elite guard, the professor explained, gesturing toward the insectoid students in the front rows. Several Thrakari clicked their mandibles in acknowledgement, their compound eyes reflecting the plasma's glow. Their natural ability to process multiple sensory inputs simultaneously makes them ideal plasma whip operators. The weapon requires split-second decisions and constant awareness of its energy state. A massive Croton student raised one of his 4 arms. Professor, what about other species? Can non-Thrakari effectively wield plasma whips? Kethver's expression grew thoughtful. Excellent question, warrior student Gruxtal. The Valenti have shown some aptitude, their empathic abilities allowing them to sense the weapon's energy fluctuations. He nodded toward the pale, ethereal beings clustered on the left side of the hall. The Mordakian collective achieved limited success through their hive-mind coordination, but individual wielders struggled with the neural interface. Sarah noticed he didn't mention humans. Not surprising, considering they were the newest species to join the Galactic Alliance. Most professors still viewed humans as primitive curiosities, barely capable of understanding basic plasma physics, let alone mastering advanced weapon systems. The key challenge, Kethver continued, lies in the weapon's neural feedback system. Plasma whips don't simply respond to muscle memory or trained reflexes. They require a direct connection between the wielder's nervous system and the weapon's quantum field generators. The slightest hesitation or mental uncertainty can cause catastrophic feedback. He demonstrated by letting his concentration waver for just a moment. The plasma stream flickered, its coherent energy pattern disrupting before he quickly regained control. Several students flinched at the brief display of the weapon's unpredictability. This is why plasma whip training typically takes decades to master, the professor added. The Thrakari begin training their young at the larval stage, gradually conditioning their nervous systems to handle the weapon's demands. Even then, only 1 in 10,000 achieves true mastery. Sarah found herself studying the weapon's movement patterns, noting how the plasma stream responded to minute changes in the professor's posture and breathing. There was something almost organic about its behavior, as if the energy itself possessed a primitive intelligence. She'd read about similar phenomena in Earth's ancient texts, descriptions of weapons that seemed to have wills of their own, the professor continued his demonstration, showing how the plasma whip could be used for both offensive and defensive purposes. The energy stream could solidify momentarily to deflect incoming attacks, then become fluid again to strike at unexpected angles. Advanced practitioners could even split the stream into multiple tendrils, though this required extraordinary mental discipline. Now, Kethver announced, I'll need a volunteer to demonstrate the weapon's bonding process with an untrained wielder. As you'll observe, the plasma whip will reject any attempt at control from someone lacking the proper neural conditioning. The hall fell silent. Every student understood the implications. An untrained wielder could suffer severe neural feedback, potentially causing permanent damage to their nervous system. The plasma whip had a reputation for being unforgiving to those who attempted to use it. Without proper preparation, minutes passed without any volunteers. Even the bravest Croton warriors seemed reluctant to risk their military careers on a classroom demonstration. The Thrakari students chittered among themselves but made no move to volunteer. They understood better than anyone the dangers of attempting to bond with an unprepared plasma whip. Sarah felt a strange pull toward the weapon. There was something about its energy pattern that reminded her of Earth's electrical storms. The way lightning danced across the sky during summer thunderstorms back home. She'd always felt drawn to electricity, even as a child. Her grandmother used to joke that Sarah could sense storms coming hours before they arrived. Perhaps we should move on to theoretical applications, Professor Kethver suggested after another minute of silence. The weapon's rejection of untrained wielders is well documented, and I see no need to demonstrate. I'll try it. The words left Sarah's mouth before she fully realized she'd spoken. 200 alien faces turned toward her, expressions ranging from amazement to disbelief. The human student who'd barely passed her basic plasma theory exam wanted to attempt something that seasoned warriors avoided. Professor Kethver's crystalline features shifted into what might have been surprise. Student Shen, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but perhaps you don't fully understand the risks involved. Humans have no documented history with plasma weapon technology. Your nervous system lacks the necessary adaptations. I understand the risks, Sarah interrupted, standing up. But isn't this supposed to be a learning experience? How can we learn about the weapon's properties without observing what happens when different species attempt to use it? A murmur ran through the hall. The logic was sound, even if the volunteer was questionable. Several Thrakari students clicked their approval at Sarah's reasoning, though whether they were impressed by her courage or amused by her foolishness remained unclear. The professor considered for a long moment. Very well, he finally agreed. But we'll take every precaution. Medical team on standby, neural dampeners activated, and emergency shutdown protocols engaged. If you experience any discomfort whatsoever, you will release the weapon immediately. Sarah made her way down to the demonstration area, acutely aware of every eye following her movement. The plasma whip hummed ominously in Professor Kethver's grip, its energy field creating patterns of light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. As she drew closer, she could feel the weapon's electromagnetic signature interacting with her own bioelectric field. Extend your dominant hand, the professor instructed. The weapon will attempt to establish a neural connection through skin contact. Most untrained wielders experience immediate rejection of sharp pain that prevents any further bonding attempts. Your human nervous system will likely prove incompatible with the weapon's quantum interface. Sarah reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they approached the weapon's grip. The plasma stream writhed like a serpent, its energy pattern becoming more agitated as her hand drew near. She could feel electricity building in the air, making the fine hairs on her arms stand upright the moment her palm touched the weapon's handle. The world exploded into sensation, electric fire raced up her arm. But instead of the expected pain, Sarah felt something else entirely. The weapon's energy signature merged with her own, creating patterns of sensation she'd never experienced. It was like touching lightning itself, feeling the storm's raw power flowing through her veins. The plasma stream responded to her touch, its chaotic movements suddenly becoming more organized. Professor Kethver released his grip, stepping back in amazement. The plasma whip should have immediately shut down without his neural guidance, but instead it continued operating in Sarah's hand. The weapon's energy field stabilized, its quantum patterns synchronizing with her brainwaves in a way that defied everything they understood about plasma weapon technology. Impossible, breathed a Thurkari student from the front row. Sarah barely heard the comment. The silence in the lecture hall stretched like a taut wire as Sarah stood motionless, the plasma whip humming softly in her grasp. Professor Kethver circled around her slowly, his 4 eyes studying the weapon's energy readings on his handheld scanner. The device chirped repeatedly, displaying patterns that shouldn't exist. The bonding coefficient is impossible, he muttered, his crystalline skin reflecting the plasma's glow in complex patterns. Human neural architecture shouldn't support quantum field interface protocols. Yet the weapon's energy signature shows complete synchronization. Sarah barely heard him. She was experiencing something beyond words, a connection that felt more natural than breathing. The plasma whip responded to her thoughts before she fully formed them, extending and retracting in perfect harmony with her intentions. When she focused on precision, the energy stream narrowed to a hair-thin line. When she thought about flexibility, it became fluid as water. A Croydon student in the third row leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the demonstration area. Professor, is it safe for her to maintain contact this long? Thurkari training protocols limit initial exposure to 30 seconds maximum. Under normal circumstances, you would be correct, Professor Kethver replied, not taking his eyes off his scanner. But these readings suggest student Chin's nervous system is adapting to the weapon at an unprecedented rate. Her bioelectric field is actually strengthening the plasma containment matrix rather than destabilizing it. Sarah could sense the tension building in the room. 200 alien students watched her every movement, their various forms of breathing creating a symphony of nervous energy. She knew they expected her to fail catastrophically. To prove that humans were indeed the primitive newcomers everyone believed them to be, instead, she decided to test the weapon's capabilities. Moving slowly, Sarah raised the plasma whip above her head. The energy stream responded instantly, extending to its maximum 5-meter length. She could feel every molecule of plasma under her control, each particle of contained lightning dancing to her will. With a gentle thought, she began moving the weapon in slow, precise patterns. The plasma stream traced geometric shapes in the air, leaving brief afterimages that faded like dying stars. Circle became triangle, became complex spiral, each form perfect in its execution. The weapon's energy field remained absolutely stable throughout the demonstration, showing no signs of the fluctuations that typically plagued inexperienced wielders. "How is she doing that?" whispered a Valenti student, her pale features luminescent with amazement. "I can sense the weapon's quantum field. It's completely synchronized with her neural patterns. Even master Thurkari warriors take years to achieve such precision." Professor Kethver set down his scanner and picked up a targeting drone from his equipment case. The small spherical device activated with a soft whir, its repulsors lifting it into the air above Sarah's head. "Student Chun, I'm going to test your reaction time. This drone will move in random patterns. Do not attempt to strike it, simply track its movement with the plasma stream." The drone began darting through the air in erratic patterns, changing direction without warning. Sarah found herself responding instinctively, the plasma whip following the target with impossible accuracy. The weapon seemed to anticipate the drone's movements, positioning itself a split second before each direction change. What amazed her most was how natural it felt. She wasn't thinking about plasma dynamics or quantum field theory. Instead, she was simply moving the way her body wanted to move, letting some deeper instinct guide her actions. It reminded her of childhood games, the way she used to catch fireflies on summer evenings, knowing exactly where they would fly before they moved. "Terminate the exercise," called out a new voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned to see Admiral Faintalk entering the lecture hall, her Mordakian carapace gleaming under the lights. The collective consciousness representative rarely visited classroom demonstrations, her presence indicating something of significant importance. Behind her walked Dr. Vexara, the Academy's chief medical officer, carrying a portable neural monitoring station. "Admiral," Professor Keffer acknowledged with a respectful bow. "To what do we owe the honor of your presence?" "Automated systems detected anomalous plasma signatures from this hole," Admiral Thaintalk replied, her compound eyes focusing on Sarah. "When we investigated, we discovered readings that defy current understanding of plasma weapon technology." Dr. Vexara began comprehensive scans. The medical officer activated her equipment. Directing various sensors toward Sarah, the scanning beams felt warm against her skin, but the plasma whip's energy field remained unchanged. If anything, the weapon seemed to be protecting her from the invasive scans, creating a subtle interference pattern that maintained her privacy while allowing basic readings. "Neural activity is off the charts," Dr. Vexara reported, studying her displays with growing amazement. "Her brainwave patterns are synchronizing with quantum frequencies that shouldn't be accessible to organic nervous systems. The plasma weapon is somehow bridging the gap between classical neural architecture and quantum field mechanics." Admiral Thaintalk approached Sarah slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. Despite her imposing appearance, her voice carried a note of wonder. "Human student, are you experiencing any discomfort? Pain? Disorientation?" "No, Admiral," Sarah replied honestly. "It feels completely natural, like the weapon belongs in my hand." She paused, trying to find words for something beyond description. "It's as if I've been training with this my entire life, even though I've never seen one before today." "Fascinating," the Admiral mused. "In 3 centuries of plasma weapon development, we've never observed such immediate compatibility. Even the most gifted Thrakari warriors require extensive neural conditioning." She gestured to Professor Kethfer. "Continue the demonstration, but with enhanced monitoring. I want complete documentation of every interaction." Professor Kethfer nodded and retrieved a more complex training apparatus from storage. The device consisted of multiple targeting projectors arranged in a circle around the demonstration area. When activated, they would create a holographic obstacle course requiring advanced maneuvering and split-second timing. "This exercise is designed for advanced practitioners," he explained, powering up the projectors. "The holograms represent various threats moving at combat speeds. Successful completion requires the wielder to deflect attacks while simultaneously striking designated targets. Most students fail this test even after months of training." The projectors hummed to life, filling the air with a complex array of holographic enemies. Energy bolts streaked toward Sarah from multiple directions while moving targets appeared and disappeared at random intervals. The test was designed to overwhelm even experienced warriors with its complexity and speed. Sarah took a deep breath and let instinct take over. The plasma whip became a blur of controlled energy, deflecting incoming fire while striking targets with surgical precision. She moved like a dancer, her body flowing from one position to the next with impossible grace. The weapon extended and retracted in perfect timing, sometimes splitting into multiple segments to handle simultaneous threats. What stunned the observers most was her efficiency. Where other species relied on brute force or overwhelming speed, Sarah used minimal movements to achieve maximum effect. She seemed to know exactly where each threat would appear, positioning herself to intercept attacks before they fully materialized. "She's not just reacting," Dr. Vexara observed, her scanner showing impossible readings. "Her neural patterns suggest she's actually predicting the hologram algorithms. The weapon is somehow allowing her to process information at quantum processing speeds." The exercise continued for what felt like hours but lasted only minutes. When the final target dissolved, Sarah stood in the center of the demonstration area, completely unharmed and barely breathing hard. The plasma whip hummed contentedly in her grip, its energy field more stable than when the test began. Complete silence filled the hall. 200 alien students stared at the human who had just accomplished something that defied every principle of plasma weapon theory. Even the most accomplished Thrakari masters would have struggled with such a complex exercise. Admiral Thaintok approached Sarah again, her expression unreadable. Student Chun, I must ask you something of vital importance. Have you ever been exposed to quantum field technology before today? Any unusual electrical phenomena in your background? Sarah considered the question carefully. My grandmother used to say I could sense storms coming. And I've always been good with electrical devices. They seem to respond better for me than for other people. But nothing like this. Interesting, the Admiral mused. Dr. Vexara, what's your assessment? The medical officer consulted her scanners one more time. Admiral, I believe we're witnessing the emergence of a previously unknown human adaptation. Something in her neural architecture allows natural quantum field interface perhaps, an evolutionary development we haven't recognized. Professor Kethver cleared his throat. With respect, Admiral, if humans possess natural plasma weapon compatibility, it could revolutionize everything we understand about combat training and weapon development. Admiral Thaintok nodded slowly. 3 days after the classroom demonstration, Sarah found herself in the Academy's most advanced training facility, surrounded by equipment that had never been used to test human subjects. Admiral Thaintok observed from behind. Reinforced barriers while teams of researchers monitored every aspect of Sarah's interaction with. Increasingly sophisticated plasma weapons. The testing chamber could simulate any environment in the galaxy, from the crushing gravity of gas giant surfaces to the zero-gravity vacuum of deep space. Today, they were recreating the atmospheric conditions of Thrakos Prime, the homeworld where plasma whip combat had been perfected over millennia. Begin with standard cataforms, instructed Master Zikathara, the Academy's premier Thrakari weapon specialist. His insectoid features showed skeptical curiosity as he watched Sarah prepare. These movements have been refined for 3,000 years. Each motion serves a specific purpose in plasma field manipulation. Sarah nodded, hefting the advanced training whip they'd provided. This weapon was significantly more powerful than the classroom demonstration model, its quantum field generators capable of producing energy streams that could cut through starship armor. In untrained hands, it could kill within seconds. The moment the weapon activated, Sarah felt the now familiar surge of connection. But this time, something was different. The more powerful weapon didn't just respond to her thoughts, it seemed to anticipate them, creating feedback loops that enhanced her reflexes and processing speed. It was as if the weapon was teaching her while she learned to use it. She began the first cataform, a series of defensive movements designed to deflect attacks from multiple directions. The ancient Thrakari techniques felt strangely familiar, as if she'd practiced them in dreams. Her body moved through the prescribed patterns while her mind processed information at incredible speed. Impossible, Master Ziktara chittered, his compound eyes tracking every movement. She's performing the 7th form perfectly. It takes our students years to achieve such precision with those combinations. Dr. Vexara studied her scanners with growing amazement. Her neural activity is off the charts again, but this time it's different. The weapon isn't just bonding with her nervous system, it's actually enhancing her cognitive abilities. She's processing information at rates that approach artificial intelligence levels. Admiral Thaintok leaned forward, her attention focused entirely on Sarah's performance. What's her efficiency rating compared to trained Thrakari warriors? That's the truly remarkable part, Master Zikthara replied, consulting his own monitoring equipment. A typical advanced student achieves 60% efficiency in these forms after 2 years of training. Master-level warriors reach 85%. She's currently operating at 97% efficiency. Sarah barely heard the commentary. She was lost in the rhythm of movement and energy, feeling the plasma whip respond to intentions she didn't know she possessed. The weapon guided her through increasingly complex forms, each one building on the last in ways that seemed to unlock new capabilities in both her mind and body. When she transitioned to the 9th Forma advanced sequence that typically required a decade of study, something extraordinary happened. The plasma stream began moving in patterns that defied the standard kata requirements. creating new configurations that were somehow more efficient than the ancient techniques. "She's not following the prescribed forms anymore?" Master Zikthara observed, his voice filled with wonder rather than concern. "She's improving on them. These movement patterns are theoretically superior to anything in our traditional training." Admiral Thaintok activated her personal communicator. "General Varthok, you need to see this immediately. We may have discovered something that changes everything." Within minutes, the training chamber filled with high-ranking military officials from across the Alliance. Representatives from every major species crowded the observation area, their attention focused on the human student, who was rewriting 3,000 years of combat doctrine through pure instinct. General Varthok, Supreme Commander of Alliance forces, arrived with his full staff. The massive Crotan warrior had seen every form of combat in the galaxy, but his expression showed genuine amazement as he watched Sarah work. "Dr. Vexara, what's your current analysis?" He rumbled, his forearms crossed in contemplation. "General, we're witnessing something unprecedented," the medical officer replied, gesturing to her displays. "The plasma weapon is somehow interfacing directly with her creative problem-solving centers. She's not just using the weapon, she's collaborating with it to develop new techniques in real time." Sarah completed another impossible sequence, the plasma stream tracing patterns that created geometric beauty while maintaining perfect combat efficiency. She could feel the weapon's quantum field adapting to her movements, learning from her innovations and suggesting new possibilities through subtle feedback. "The strategic implications are staggering," observed Commander Tekful, the Alliance's chief tactical officer. "If humans can naturally interface with plasma weapons at this level, it could provide significant advantages in combat situations." Master Zikthara clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "With respect, Commander, I believe we're seeing something beyond simple weapon proficiency. She's not just wielding the plasma whip, she's having a conversation with it. The weapon is teaching her while she teaches it new possibilities." General Varthok studied Sarah's performance for several more minutes before speaking. "What's her status regarding standard military training?" Admiral Thaintok consulted her datapad. "First semester student, basic courses in Alliance history and fundamental physics. No advanced combat training, no weapons experience beyond basic safety courses. By all conventional measures, she should be completely unqualified for plasma weapon interaction. Yet here she stands, revolutionizing techniques that have remained unchanged for millennia," the general mused. "Dr. Vexara, could other humans possess similar capabilities?" "Unknown, General. We've only tested one subject so far. But if this represents a general human adaptation rather than an individual anomaly, it could indicate that Earth's electromagnetic environment produced evolutionary changes we haven't recognized." Sarah paused in her practice, suddenly aware of the intense scrutiny from the observation deck. The plasma whip hummed softly in her hand, its energy field stable and welcoming. She could sense the excitement and curiosity of the assembled officials, but also something else, a growing recognition that human capabilities might extend far beyond what anyone had imagined. "Would you like me to continue, General?" she called out, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "General." Varthok exchanged glances with his staff before responding. "Student Shin, I want you to attempt something that has never been successfully demonstrated. Master Zikthara will explain the requirements." The Thrakari weapons specialist approached the chamber's communication panel. "The technique is called plasma weaving, the ability to maintain multiple independent energy streams simultaneously. Theoretical texts describe it as the ultimate expression of plasma weapon mastery, but no documented attempts have ever succeeded. The neural requirements are considered beyond organic capabilities." Sarah felt a surge of excitement rather than intimidation. The weapon in her hand seemed to vibrate with anticipation, its quantum field generators adjusting their output in preparation for something extraordinary. "How many streams?" she asked simply. Master Zikthara's compound eyes widened. "The theoretical maximum suggested in ancient texts is 3. No one has ever achieved more than 2, and those attempts resulted in severe neural damage." Sarah closed her eyes and extended her consciousness into the weapon's quantum matrix. She could feel the plasma generators responding to her touch, their energy patterns becoming more complex as she explored new possibilities. The weapon wasn't just willing to attempt multiple streams, it was eager to show her what they could accomplish together when she opened her eyes and raised the weapon. The training chamber fell silent. The first stream materialized as usual. But instead of stopping there, Sarah felt her way deeper into the weapon's capabilities. A second stream joined the first, both moving independently while maintaining perfect stability. The assembled observers gasped as a third stream appeared. Then a fourth. By the time Sarah reached 6 independent plasma streams, all moving in complex coordinated patterns, Master Zikthara had fallen silent. The theoretical maximum had been shattered and she showed no signs of strain. Quantum field coherence remained stable across all streams, Dr. Vexara reported, her voice barely above a whisper. Her neural patterns are actually becoming more organized, not less. The weapon is distributing processing load across quantum probability matrices that shouldn't be accessible to biological minds. General Varthok watched in amazement as Sarah demonstrated precise control over each individual stream while maintaining overall pattern coordination. She was essentially performing the work of 6 master warriors simultaneously, with an efficiency that exceeded any single wielder. "Student Chun," he called out, "can you maintain this level of control while moving?" In response, Sarah began walking through a complex obstacle course while maintaining all 6 streams. Each energy tendril moved independently to next. 2 weeks after the demonstration that shocked the Alliance military hierarchy, Sarah stood in a completely different kind of chamber. The deep space testing facility orbited a dead star, its massive installations designed to contain experiments too dangerous for inhabited systems. Today's test would determine whether her remarkable abilities could translate to actual combat situations. Admiral Thanetok watched from the command center as technicians made final preparations. "Are you certain about this approach, General?" Combat simulations against Hadron Empire attack patterns seem premature for someone with 2 weeks of training. General Varthok studied the tactical displays with the intensity that had made him the Alliance's most respected strategist. "Admiral, conventional training timelines don't apply here. Our preliminary tests suggest Student Chun's capabilities exceed our most experienced warriors. If we're going to understand the full scope of human potential, we need realistic combat scenarios." Sarah entered the testing chamber through reinforced airlocks, now wearing a full combat suit designed to monitor every aspect of her performance. The advanced plasma whip felt familiar in her hands, its quantum field generators humming with barely contained power. Over the past 2 weeks, she'd learned to read the weapon's energy signatures like emotional states, understanding its moods and capabilities with increasing sophistication. "Simulation parameters loaded," announced Lieutenant Keksara from the control room. "Hadron Empire raiding party, 12 heavy assault troops with standard energy weapons. Combat zone is a civilian evacuation point with multiple non-combatant holograms. Mission objective is neutralization of hostiles while minimizing civilian casualties." Sarah nodded, checking her equipment one final time. The scenario represented one of the Alliance's most challenging tactical situations. Hadron Raiders were known for their brutality and their willingness to use civilians as shields. Most military units required overwhelming numerical superiority to engage them successfully. "Begin simulation," General Varthok commanded. The chamber transformed instantly, projecting a detailed holographic environment of a space station's central plaza. Hundreds of civilian holograms rushed in panic as 12 armored Hadron warriors materialized at strategic positions, their weapons already targeting the fleeing masses. The simulation's artificial intelligence controlled each enemy independently, making them respond with lethal realism to Sarah's actions. The first Hadron warrior opened fire on a group of simulated children before Sarah could react. Rage flashed through her mind, and the plasma whip responded instantly to her emotion. The energy stream extended across impossible distances, striking the warrior's weapon with surgical precision. The shot went wide, missing the civilians by centimeters, but that single intervention alerted all 12 hostiles to her presence. Energy bolts converged on her position from multiple directions, forcing her to move while maintaining awareness of civilian locations. The plasma whip became a blur of defensive motion, deflecting attacks while Sarah's enhanced reflexes processed battlefield information at superhuman speeds. Impossible reaction time, Dr. Vexara observed from the monitoring station. She's tracking 12 independent targets while calculating trajectory solutions for civilian safety. Her processing speed is approaching quantum computer levels. What amazed the observers most was Sarah's tactical thinking. Instead of engaging the raiders directly, she used the plasma whip to manipulate the environment itself. Energy streams carved through support columns with mathematical precision, creating debris patterns that forced the Hadron warriors into positions where they couldn't target civilians. She's not just fighting them, Master Zikthara noted with professional admiration. She's rewriting the entire tactical situation to her advantage. Those environmental modifications would take our best strategists hours to calculate. Sarah felt her consciousness expanding as the combat situation intensified. The plasma whip wasn't just a weapon in her hands, it was becoming an extension of her nervous system, allowing her to process information and react to threats with impossible speed and accuracy. Each enemy movement became predictable, their attack patterns as clear as written text. The first Hadron warrior fell when Sarah used the plasma whip like a lasso, the energy stream coiling around his weapon and yanking it from his grasp before delivering a precisely modulated stunning charge. The second warrior attempted to use a child hologram as a shield, but Sarah's response defied physics as much as logic. She split the plasma stream into 6 independent tendrils, each one moving through the air with liquid grace. 3 streams secured the civilian holograms, gently moving them to safety while the other 3 engaged the warrior from multiple angles. The coordination required to manage such complex simultaneous actions should have been beyond any organic mind. Her neural patterns are creating quantum superposition states, Dr. Vexara reported, her voice filled with amazement. She's literally existing in multiple tactical probabilities simultaneously, choosing optimal outcomes in real time. As the simulation continued, Sarah's movements became increasingly fluid and efficient. She began anticipating Hadron tactics before they implemented them, positioning herself to counter attacks that hadn't yet begun. The plasma whip responded to her intentions with perfect harmony, creating energy patterns that seemed to violate conservation laws through sheer elegance of execution. The watching officers fell silent as they witnessed something that redefined their understanding of individual combat capability. Sarah wasn't just defeating superior numbers, she was making it look effortless, while protecting every civilian hologram in the process. How many raiders remain active? General Varthok asked quietly. 3, General, Lieutenant Keksara replied. Time elapsed. 4 minutes, 37 seconds. 0 civilian casualties. 0 friendly casualties. All hostile weapons disabled or destroyed. The final 3 Hadron warriors attempted a coordinated assault, rushing Sarah's position while firing concentrated energy bursts designed to overwhelm any defensive capabilities. Their tactics were sound, their execution flawless by conventional standards. Sarah's response transcended conventional standards entirely. The plasma whip expanded into a complex geometric pattern that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the 3-dimensional space allowed. Energy streams moved through trajectories that curved impossibly, striking targets from directions that defied geometry. Each warrior fell within seconds, their weapons disabled and their armor's neural interfaces scrambled by precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses. When the simulation ended, Sarah stood alone in the center of the plaza, surrounded by unconscious but living enemies and unharmed civilian holograms. The plasma whip hummed contentedly in her hand, its energy field more stable than when the exercise began. Complete silence filled the observation deck. Military officers from across the Alliance stared at tactical displays that showed combat performance beyond anything in their collective experience. A single human student had just neutralized an elite Hadron raiding party while protecting civilians, accomplishing a mission that would normally require a full company of experienced soldiers. General Varthok was the first to break the silence. Dr. Vexara, what's your assessment of Student Chun's current condition? Completely nominal, General. Her vital signs are actually better than baseline heart rate, neural activity, muscular tension, all optimal. She's not just uninjured, she's somehow healthier after that level of combat. Admiral Thaintok approached the chamber's communication panel. Student Chun, how do you feel? Sarah looked up at the observation deck, her expression thoughtful rather than exhausted. Like I'm finally understanding what the weapon is trying to teach me, Admiral. Each simulation shows me new possibilities, new ways to solve problems that seemed impossible before. The Admiral exchanged meaningful glances with General Varthok. Student Chen, I need to ask you something of vital importance. During that engagement, did you feel like you were in control of your actions, or did the weapon influence your decisions? Both, Sarah replied honestly. The weapon suggests possibilities, but I make the choices. It's more like having a very knowledgeable partner than being controlled by something external. We work together. Master Zikthara clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. That level of symbiosis has never been documented before. Traditional plasma weapon training focuses on imposing will upon the weapon. She's achieved true partnership instead. General Varthok studied the tactical recordings for several minutes before speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing the emergence of capabilities that could reshape interstellar conflict. Student Chen has just demonstrated that a single properly equipped human could potentially counter threats that currently require entire military units. Dr. Vexara consulted her data one more time. General, if her abilities represent human potential rather than individual anomaly, the strategic implications extend beyond military applications. Humans might possess natural quantum consciousness abilities that we're only beginning to understand. Admiral Thaintok nodded slowly, which raises the critical question, are there others? If Student Sheen represents human capability rather than unique mutation, how many more individuals with similar potential exist on Earth? 6 months later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Alliance flagship Unconcordant Dawn, watching as the first class of human plasma weapon specialists completed their final examination. Below in the training bays, 50 humans from across Earth demonstrated abilities that had transformed the galaxy's understanding of consciousness. Technology and the nature of sentient potential itself, the scene would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Human students moved through combat exercises with a grace that rivaled the ancient masters, their plasma weapons responding to thoughts and intentions with perfect harmony. Each individual showed the same natural affinity that had first appeared in Sarah, confirming that her abilities represented human potential rather than unique mutation. Remarkable progress, Admiral Thaintok observed, joining Sarah at the viewport. 6 months ago, most Alliance officials considered humans a primitive species barely capable of understanding basic physics. Today, human plasma weapon specialists are being recruited by every military branch in the galaxy. Sarah nodded. Watching a young man from Tokyo execute a defensive pattern that would have challenged Master Zikthara himself. It's not just about the weapons anymore, Admiral. The quantum consciousness research has opened possibilities none of us expected. The research had indeed revealed extraordinary implications, Dr. Vexara S. Studies showed that human neural architecture possessed unique quantum processing capabilities that had emerged during Earth's electromagnetic evolution. Humans could naturally interface with quantum field technologies in ways that took other species millennia to develop through artificial enhancement. The Hadron Empire's recent communication was particularly interesting, Admiral Thaintok continued. For the first time in their recorded history, they've requested diplomatic negotiations rather than simply demanding surrender. Sarah smiled at that development. 3 weeks ago, a single squadron of human-operated ships had encountered a full Hadron battle fleet near the Kepler sector. What should have been a massacre became a demonstration of tactical capabilities that left the Empire's commanders questioning their fundamental assumptions about warfare. Human pilots didn't just use plasma weapons, they formed symbiotic relationships with their ship's entire quantum systems. Navigation, communication, targeting, defense, every aspect of Starship operation became enhanced through the same consciousness technology interface that made plasma weapons so responsive to human wielders. General Varthok requested a status report, the Admiral said, consulting her communication device. How would you assess our strategic position? Sarah considered the question carefully. Over the past months, she had become more than just a student or test subject. Her insights into human technology interface had made her an unofficial advisor on policies affecting the entire species. The Alliance has gained capabilities that fundamentally alter interstellar power balance, she replied. But more importantly, we've discovered that consciousness itself might be more complex than anyone realized. Humans aren't just good with plasma weapons, we're naturally quantum conscious in ways that open possibilities for every sentient species. The research implications extended far beyond military applications. Human quantum consciousness abilities had already revolutionized communication technology, allowing instantaneous coordination across galactic distances. Medical applications were showing promise for treating neural conditions that had previously been incurable. Even artistic expression was evolving as human creators learned to interface directly with quantum probability matrices. The Cultural Council meeting next week should be fascinating, Admiral Thaintok noted. Representatives from 200 species, all trying to understand how human integration changes their own development possibilities. Sarah watched as one of the human students below demonstrated something that still amazed her: the ability to share quantum consciousness states with other sentient beings. The young woman was working with a Thurkari master, their minds temporarily synchronized through plasma field interface. Both individuals emerged from the experience with enhanced capabilities, as if consciousness itself could be strengthened through collaboration. Admiral, I've been thinking about long-term implications, Sarah said. What happens when the galaxy understands that consciousness isn't limited by biological boundaries? That technology and awareness can merge without losing essential identity. It was a profound question that occupied philosophers and scientists across the Alliance. Human demonstrations suggested that consciousness existed as a quantum field phenomenon that could interface with appropriately designed technology without sacrificing individual autonomy. The implications challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of intelligence, identity, and technological development. The Consortium of Artificial Intelligences has been particularly interested in those questions, Admiral Thaintok replied. They've requested permission to establish direct communication with human consciousness researchers. If biological and artificial minds can share quantum awareness states, the sentence remained unfinished, but both understood the implications. The boundaries between biological intelligence, artificial consciousness, and quantum field phenomena might be far more fluid than anyone had realized. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. General Varthok's image appeared on the observation deck's main display, his expression showing the controlled excitement that had become common when discussing human developments. Admiral, Student Chen, I have news that will interest you both, he began. The expedition to the Veil Nebula has made contact with the precursor ruins that were discovered last month. Initial analysis suggests the ancient structures incorporate the same quantum consciousness interfaces that humans use naturally. Sarah felt a chill of recognition. The precursors had vanished millions of years ago, leaving behind technological artifacts that defied understanding. If their technology operated on quantum consciousness principles, General, are you suggesting that humans have independently evolved capabilities that match precursor technology? Admiral Thaintok asked. The preliminary evidence is compelling, General Varthok confirmed. Precursor artifacts that have remained inactive for Millions of years responded immediately to human. Contact Dr. Vexara S. Team believes we may have discovered evidence of convergent consciousness evolution. The implications were staggering. If humans represented a natural evolution toward consciousness capabilities that ancient civilizations had developed through technology, Earth might be more than just another inhabited world. Humanity could represent a critical development in the galaxy's long-term evolution. There's more, the general continued. The precursor facilities contain what appears to be educational technology designed to enhance quantum consciousness abilities. If the systems respond to human interface, he didn't need to finish the thought. Advanced precursor technology combined with human quantum consciousness abilities could accelerate development beyond anything previously imagined. Sarah looked out at the human students below, each one representing capabilities that had emerged from Earth's unique electromagnetic environment. A year ago, they had been ordinary people living ordinary lives. Today, they were pioneering a form of consciousness that might represent the galaxy's next evolutionary step. General, when do we begin precursor facility exploration? She asked. Next week, Student Chun, and we'll need volunteers willing to interface with technology that's older than most star systems. Are you interested? Sarah felt the familiar surge of excitement that accompanied every new challenge. The plasma whip at her side hummed softly, its quantum field generators responding to her emotional state with gentle encouragement. Whatever lay ahead, whatever new discoveries awaited, she would face them with the confidence that came from understanding her place in something larger than herself. Yes, General, she replied without hesitation. Let's see what else we can learn. As the communication ended, Sarah returned her attention to the training exercises below. Each human student represented not just individual potential, but a species discovering capabilities that could reshape the galaxy's future. They were no longer the primitive newcomers that other civilizations had dismissed. They were partners in an adventure that might unlock the deepest mysteries of consciousness itself. The plasma whip pulsed one more time, its energy signature conveying something that felt like anticipation. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever discoveries waited in the ancient precursor ruins, humanity would face them with the quiet confidence that came from knowing they belonged among the stars. The future stretched before them, bright with possibility and heavy with the responsibility that came with extraordinary potential. And Sarah Chun, who had once been just another student in an advanced weapons class, now stood ready to help her species claim their place in a galaxy that was finally beginning to understand what humans had always been capable of achieving.